Morning warriors, and welcome to episode 8 of Why Shy Why. Why Shy Why is really about taking the questions and the challenges that we've found in our client community, sharing some of those along with the recommendations and the tips we've given our clients to those of you that might be going through a similar challenge in your business. I really want to talk to you guys out there that are thinking about building an app in the near future. Oh, by the way, apps for me is really about mobile, it's about web or cloud, whatever you want to call it, and it's also about desktop. So it's not just mobile as most of us talk about apps. Pretty much anywhere you're writing code. If you are going down the path of writing code in your near future, you guys have to have 3 must-haves that you must have, funnily enough. That will help you go through that process and really make it a lot easier for you and give you every chance at success. Alright, so let's get into it. Number 1, always use an iterative project methodology. That is key here, guys, especially if you haven't done this before or you're building something where there's a little bit of unknown, which, let's face it, with pretty much every software application out there, there's going to be a little bit of unknown at the start of that project. Go with something that's iterative. It builds in quality, it builds in communication, it builds in trust into the project framework, and so it makes it a lot harder to fail at those things. You could still fail, but it makes it a lot harder. There's a really great book by Eric Ries called The Lean Startup, which, if you guys are thinking about doing anything tech, and starting up an app or anything on a website or anything like that, it's a really great read. It takes like a weekend to read, but it will give you all the understanding that you need before you jump in. Okay, tip number 2, realize that this is a collaborative effort with your development team, no matter whether these guys are part of your organization or you outsourced it or you offshored it, whatever the arrangement is. This has got to be a collaboration, okay? And collaboration means that you need to understand who the players are, right? What everyone can do, understand what you need, okay? And that sounds silly, but it's really hard to articulate stuff that you need before you actually see what you don't need, okay? So think about that. And then you've got to build a bridge between those two things. How do I get what I need out of the people who can do what they do, right? And you meet in the middle. And what that basically you're trying to do is build a whole bunch of trust between yourself and your development team, because it's that trust that you'll need to leverage going on into the project. Okay. Also, a little thing: demand constant communication. Right. A lot of developers will be into that. Some developers won't be into that, but you need to push for it. You want to be constantly communicating with your project team, with your development team. And if you have an iterative framework, like I explained, that could be built into your project methodology. Okay, so always communicate. Think of this as something that will take up a lot of your time, even though you're not doing the coding. Okay, number 3, the costs. Costs are key, of course. I have one big rule that should never be broken, and that is never pay for anything upfront. And that means full price upfront, do not pay. Some sort of 30% upfront type arrangement, do not pay. There is nothing that you should be paying upfront for, okay, except in those times where you aren't using a technology that you're going to use. For example, if you're going to build on an iOS, then you might have to have an iOS device that you'll have to pay for your team to have, right? That sort of thing. But never pay for a thing up front. The second part of that is you need to demand a guarantee from your development team, okay? And that means that for any work that they've done that you did not want, and from the bottom of your heart, you have communicated as much as you possibly could, right? This is really key. Everything that you need, because articulating requirements is a hard thing. But if you think you've done everything you possibly can, and they still made an assumption that took the system down the wrong path, you need to be able to recoup that cost and have some sort of guarantee in place. Okay, and then start thinking about the 2 models of pricing when it comes to app development. One is fixed cost, where you go in and say, here's my static list of requirements, and they will give you a time frame and a cost, okay, and they'll hopefully build to that. I have seen that go wrong a million times, but the problem is that that static list of requirements always changes, okay, because again, it's very hard to articulate your requirements. I almost always used to say, almost always until I met one client, every client I've ever met, except for that one, does not know what they want until they know what they don't want. Okay, so until we show them something and they go, no, I don't want that, actually I want blah blah blah, that's how it works. Okay, so keep in mind that changing requirements will hurt you in a fixed cost arrangement. The opposite of that is a time and materials type arrangement, where they deliver something to you and you pay for that delivery. So for example, if your app has a login screen and they deliver that login screen, you log in, but that's pretty much it, just the login screen, then you pay for the login screen, right? So you pay to play, okay? So there's my 3 tips, guys, but I have thought about a 4th one just while I was talking that I think is really key, and that is that one developer is never enough, okay? Every time you're working with a development team, ensure that you have a business analyst, a designer of some sort, and a developer, okay? Or multiple of those things. That is your minimum requirements, and the reason for that is because you're talking in terms of business requirements. And again, how many times do I have to tell you guys this? Articulating requirements is so hard, right? So you want to be talking business with a business analyst who will then translate it into technical, functional for the developer, okay? So make sure that you have at least a business analyst, a developer, and a UX person or a designer person on the team, because not everyone can be good at everything. Alright, guys, that is my 3 tips plus 1 bonus for the day. If you guys are thinking about building an app, give us a call. We'll be happy to help you out with any of the stuff we talked about today, and even give you some more extra guidance. We've also got a couple of copies of the Lean Startup available if you want it. Okay, cool. So episode 8 done and dusted. So we will see you next week with episode 9, guys. Until then, be happy, be healthy, stay positive, and stay focused.